But,
Welcome to Divisive Issues.
Yes.
Where we're going to talk about a comic book movie.
Yes.
And this is the backer exclusive episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So Sly, set the stage.
I'll set the stage for you guys because you guys are going to be the most talking. Because we're going to be talking about Man of Steel. Zack Snyder directed, whatever year it came out. Epic.
You can see we do the research for these episodes pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, like
2013.
2013 film. Supposed to kickstart the DC film universe. Kind of failed to do it in a lot of ways. And
I think it perfectly foreshadowed what was to come.
And so we always had like opposing thoughts on this. I'm not going to get super into my thoughts. I'm going to leave it to Daryl and Ryan to discuss it. The debate on whether Man of Steel is like a good direction for Superman, whether it's a good movie, etc., etc. Because I've had this conversation to death with Ryan specifically, as he was the one that defended it to me, and also the conversations you have online and shit.
Yeah.
So before we get to like our current thoughts, we should get to our initial thoughts when we first saw the movie. So Daryl, what were your thoughts when you first saw this movie for the first time?
So I saw the movie with my family in a mall. I remember we were sitting down, I think at like an Applebee's afterwards, and we were talking about, or at least myself and my sister were talking about how much we actually did enjoy the movie. Like, we thought it was pretty cool. It had really good action. We enjoyed what they did with Superman. Like, we were overall pretty pleased with it. And then come to find out, you know, you go online and you look up responses and reviews, and they're all like scathing and negative.
And Ryan, what were your initial thoughts? Because I know them, but the viewers might not.
Okay.
Well, listeners, sorry.
So when I first saw it, I actually enjoyed it. But there was always the caveat that I was like, I think it's an interesting direction. I think it's an interesting setup for an early Superman who doesn't understand his powers. And I can't wait to see how it is followed up on in future films. And apparently, the things that I thought were interesting and intentional subversions were just Zack Snyder being bad.
Oh, yeah?
So that's getting into Ryan's thoughts now. So I'm assuming that means you think the movie's a bit bad now?
I really don't like this movie. But
Wow.
I want to just say, I just want to have a caveat that this is a backer bonus episode. We're not going to go through the plot of the movie.
No.
So if you haven't seen it, I mean, I guess watch it. I rented it on Amazon for $3.
If you haven't seen it, if you know anything about it, you probably will know everything about it just by fucking all the discussions you've seen online about it. Like,
Yeah,
I have seen this movie discussed so much, like I could recite the plot, like without even seeing the film probably at this point. Like I could like wipe it from my memory and know the plot.
Even just like reading a couple reviews or like the Wikipedia article is enough. Because I'm gonna try to not get into like the minutia of like, this I think is a dumb moment or this is a dumb line. I'm gonna try to talk about it more thematically.
I mean, you can if you want, if we want to bring up like
so,
nitpicky stuff. We got time to fill
country.
here.
That's why I said I'm going to try.
Okay.
Daryl, so like, do you still have those same thoughts, Daryl, or did you?
So, I feel weird about a lot of stuff regarding this movie. Kind of.
I'm Daryl. I feel weird about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's true in general too. Because I've read Superman a lot more now, so I know, like, I don't know Superman himself really well because I've only read so many writers writing him, but like, watching the movie, it's very clear he's not like, he's really stoic in this movie, and he's really kind of bland. And I always thought Superman was bland, so when I watched the movie the first time, I was like, this is fine, this is a okay personality. But here, when you watch it, it's like, he's not like doing Superman things really. Like, I always thought because he saved people that was Superman enough, but it's like he's not inspiring people. The movie kind of takes it for granted that people are going to look up to him and people are going to want to emulate him, instead of like, but why would they, you know, what is he doing besides just making sure a building doesn't fall on a child?
So after Man of Steel came out, and like I saw it a couple times and thought about it, and Sly yelled at me a lot that it was terrible, I started to think about it in context of like, okay, maybe this isn't like the best telling of Superman, but I personally like when liberties are taken with adaptations.
Yeah, like I really love Batman Begins and Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it's going to be exactly the same, you'll get something like Watchmen where it's really close, and then the slight changes they make are so glaring, which is also Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah, also
So
Zack
I was fine with it being different and like a different interpretation. But then, especially when you see Batman v Superman and Justice League, it is just like, oh, Superman's this ideal hero that everybody idolizes, and he's the good guy. And I'm like, why do they idolize him?
I was going to bring up that's another thing why this movie is weird, is because you know what direction the DC Extended Universe takes. So you watch this, and there are some things where it's just like, it doesn't get fixed. Like, spoilers for Batman v Superman. Superman's death in it, I feel like it's not earned, the sadness from it, nor is in Justice League everyone being so heartbroken earned, because there's not enough time spent being like, Superman's a good person, rather than just like, he's a superhero that saves people.
It's such an interesting thing that this is like what kickstarts the universe, because I feel like both Batman v Superman and then Justice League are much better if you watch them first. Like, Batman v Superman is still very bad, and Justice League is still very flawed, but I feel like if you watch the movies in order, like, if you just every time you skip one, the universe just gets better.
So that's one thing I wanted to know, because I think Batman v Superman, like, the more I reflect on it, Batman v Superman is a better film, because
I wouldn't say that, but go ahead.
I wouldn't say that either.
I honestly think it's a better film. I think it's more the tone, like, it accomplishes the tone it's trying to go for.
Okay.
It is what it is supposed to be, a bleak, dark film. Like like, it still has a lot of shit that sucks, like the fucking Doomsday shit. Like, that should have been cut from the movie entirely. Wonder Woman should have been cut from the movie entirely. Should have just been Batman, Superman, super bleak, super dark. They're beating shit at each other. It's just pure misery. That's what the movie was. That's what that movie should have been. And, like, the times where false, like, this movie was trying to be optimistic, but it failed at that.
Yes.
While Batman v Superman was trying to be bleak, and then it tried to be also setting for Justice League, which it failed to do that too. But the thing that makes off my train of thought.
So Daryl, you said your opinions kind of changed now that you know Superman a little bit better.
Yeah, like that's one reason for the weirdness. There's multiple reasons for the weirdness why I had watching this. It's like knowing what direction this universe goes in, knowing Superman himself, and then when I'm trying to watch it and judge it as a movie and its themes, rather than like, because the first time I watch it, I'm just like, hey, this is a cool Superman movie. Now I watch it again and I'm like trying to pay attention to themes and what you're doing, and it's like, because there's like one scene where he shows a polar bear jumping across like ice caps, and it pans up to like Superman's ship, and there's another when he's passed out after the oil rig and he's in the water and like a whale swims by, and I'm like, okay, you got like these earthy themes going where you're showing the animals, and I thought that was something that was going to get brought up when it's, because the central conflict is, let's change Earth to Krypton, like, F these people, they don't deserve to live here anymore. And like it bypasses so many opportunities to do stuff with that theme, I feel like. I mean, you even have like the fact that Papa Kent died trying to save the dog. Like, I get so confused with some parts of this movie, because I'm like, it could have gone in like this direction or this direction. Like, I'm not so much mad with what they did with Superman's character as far as like weird as how different he is, and him being like kind of bland and stuff, as long as it coincides well with the movie and its themes. But it didn't even make me care that much for the world when it was like really pushing for you to be like, does he feel like he belongs here? Does he feel like these people are worth protecting? Or does he feel like his own people have messed up to the point where they aren't worth bringing back?
I think that's what I was trying to get to with my point, and I lost my train of thought. Yeah. It's better if you ignore this film, because you can imagine in Batman v Superman that stuff is better set up than it is here. Yeah. Like, if you imagine Batman v Superman, like, all the stuff they do in Batman v Superman where all the people are worshiping him and stuff like that, and like it just happens in Batman v Superman, so you could just assume he's closer to comic book Superman. It works better in that sense, rather than knowing this is the setup for it, where all of it is.
I feel like almost in Zack Snyder's mind, though, it's just taken for granted that people are going to worship him just because he's an alien. Like, that's it. Like, that's the only reason he needs to be worshipped.
Well, I think they take it for granted because it's Superman. Like, he's kind of like playing on what people expect to see in the Superman movie, while also inverting them at the same time and not setting up a consistent like tone or anything like that.
Yeah,
that's actually a big problem that I have with the universe in general, with the exception of Wonder Woman, because like when you look at the Marvel universe, they had a bunch of characters that most people couldn't give a shit about. Like, nobody cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy, nobody cared about Ant-Man, nobody even cared about Iron Man.
Black Panther even,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and they were characters that nobody really cared about, and then they were like, we have to make people care about it. Where, like, when Batman Begins came out, Chris Nolan had to make it reputable because the movie that was before it was Batman and Robin with George Clooney and fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
So, like, he had to earn the audience back, where they just took for, like, Slide definitely, like, I think you nailed it, where it's like they took for granted that people would look up to Superman. And, like, especially thematically, I don't get what the theme of this movie is, because, like, Superman's supposed to be, like, he's the alien that's actually the most human of us. Like, that's, like, the character. In this movie, like, every time he does something heroic, he gets shamed for it for, like, the whole first, like, 3/4 of the movie.
There's this weird arc here because Superman, it's all about him rejecting his father's legacies. You have Pa Kent, who's like, you should try to keep your head to the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's like, when he even asked him, should I have let that kid die in the school bus? And he goes, maybe. I'm like, this is a weird, like, thing to put in this movie. But I guess it is, going for the theme of rejecting your father's legacy.
Yeah, but just funny because he rejects Pa.
Also, that kid is Pete Ross, who we talked about in our last Patreon episode.
So we're continuing the Pete Ross bonus episode.
Yeah, that's every episode now is Pete Ross related. No more anything else. But you have he's rejecting Pa Kent's legacy because of Dad. Then he's rejecting Jor-El's legacy because Jor-El set up this whole plan to preserve Krypton's legacy, and Superman's like, "No, fuck you, babies, you're all dead now." So he betrays his fathers in like the worst way possible, killing Krypton's hope for survival.
Well,
and,
I thought like Jor-El himself when he was talking to Zod, I forget what specifically they said. I thought he was like, "Don't make more babies here. Like, what are you doing?"
That's in general. The babies in the Krypton babies in general are. Like, for as big as a plot device they are not discussed nearly enough. And, like, the impact of killing them...
It's weird. It feels like something that was rewritten in the plot, where it's like, let's make the focus of it being, like, do you want your people back? And then it's like, actually, the Codex is in Clark's DNA, and then it kind of just ends there. Like,
it feels like Transformers MacGuffin shit.
So Zack Snyder, I think it's because he's a fucking shit storyteller and doesn't understand subtlety.
Well, remember
at all.
the story was made by Goyer and Nolan themselves.
But yeah, that is worth mentioning.
Oh, that's fucking. I forgot that.
And it kind of pulled me in the direction of Ryan on like Dark Knight because Ryan's not a fan of Dark Knight.
No, okay, I like it a lot.
No, you said it's a bad script. You said it has a bad script. So.
It does have a bad script.
That's like 9% of the movie, Ryan.
Have a nice trip. See you next fall. Great line to put in a Batman movie.
And but my problem isn't with that. Like, I really don't give a shit.
You're a guy that reads comics, and you have a problem.
Ryan can fuck off with that criticism. Like,
okay, my only problem. I will say this right now. My problem with the Nolan movies is that I feel like he tries to elevate the material to a, I don't want to say pretentious, but to a realistic level and a deeper level, and I don't think it fully succeeds in that.
That's not my problem with it. My problem with it is like the plot's always like he's not great at coming up with plots, and there's always heavy plot holes. Like Batman Begins, I love it, but it really makes no sense like how that gas wasn't released earlier with people just boiling water in the details and shit. And like the spying angle in Dark Knight. It feels like I was thrown in there just to add a heavy question about much to say about it. Like, oh, we'll just use it for this one scene to find the Joker, and then you have the whole elaborate way of how they defragmented the bullet. Like, he has like it's like weird, like all these over the top ideas and what's supposed.
And that's what I mean. Is if it wasn't like setting out to be like the real world, then like in any other Batman movie, like I would have no problem with that at all. Like I have less of a problem with the penguins with rockets on their back in Batman Returns because it fits with the world better.
Yeah, Byrne setting up a fancy, like almost like a dark fairy tale. Like it makes
exactly.
Like, you can't say, where are these fucking penguins coming out of? Because the whole world feels like a weird,
it's
like,
thematically
surreal.
consistent.
Yes. Yeah. But my thing with Man of Steel with this whole baby thing. So real quick, because it's such a shoehorned in plot. There's a ship that has like all the potential babies of Krypton, and there's some like magic MacGuffin that has all their DNA in it. And this has been a theme in Superman stories, especially Superman origin stories, forever, where the theme is he has to choose between being a Kryptonian or being an Earthling. Mm-hmm. Like he has to choose between his birth home or his adopted home. And you can have that choice without him having to literally choose between who survives.
Yeah, he plays like executioner, like judge, executioner.
But the thing is, like Zod was flying the ship that he was in and everything.
Yeah, like I get the choice thematically, but the problem is if you're gonna paint Superman as this like altruistic hero who wants to save everybody, he doesn't try to work out any sort of scenario where Krypton can also live.
Yeah, and also one big word thing that another reason why I feel like Daryl said feels like it was rewritten to the plot. The emphasis they put on Superman killing Zod at the end feels like what they should have put on a Superman killing Krypton. Like the baby stuff gets forgotten as soon as
him.
like
yes, and him killing Zod is like Cavill did good acting in that scene, but like it doesn't make any sense because it's never established that he doesn't want to kill enemies.
Yes, and like after all the people died, like
it's like screw Zod. He was trying to murder civilians. It's like it doesn't have to be like I need everybody to live. Like he never once said that in this movie.
And like I took that as he's the only other Kryptonian, so like he realized he wasn't alone. But like that's just me reading into Superman lore. Like they don't establish that in the movie at all.
Yeah. It's so weird because it feels like the whole movie was rewritten in general. Like it felt like this whole baby plot and them destroying New York, Manhattan, whatever the fuck. Metropolis. Sorry, all these fucking cities I'm adding. It feels like all of that was like added in by Zack Snyder because he wanted these close action scenes, and like it's like all this noise getting in the way of what was originally more of a simple plot, where it's just like Superman snapping Zod's neck after he threatens a few people. Because after all that happened, it makes no sense for that to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. Like snapping Zod's neck is like a no-brainer.
Especially because we've seen so much destruction, which is actually that is something I kind of like about the movie. As you guys were talking about that, like how Batman v Superman's about misery, and I feel like this movie is kind of about misery a lot too. Which is, I think maybe that's why I enjoy about Snyder's works, is that it is about, like, suffering is not taken for granted. It's not just like, oh, there's a thing that happens. It's like, it specifically, he zooms in on it, where it's like Superman being bullied for, like, every good thing that he does, or him having to, like, hold back his strength. And then at the end, when you have, like, the planet terraforming thing, and which is just, like, such an awesome scene of everyone being lifted up into the air and then crushed against the ground, because it shows you... Sly and I had talked about this a while back. During superhero movies, you want to look for, like, gravitas and importance, and you want the scenes to feel weight, like the conflict to feel weight, so that you're like, they have to do something to stop this. Whereas, like, there's a lot of movies, like Marvel really likes doing it, where they have a bunch of, like, an army of zombie type of things, where just the main character's fighting them and feeling cool, and there's no risks there. It's just like, oh, look, these guys are fighting. But when you see, like, that planet... the terraformer going on, you're like, this city is like destroyed. This city is never going to be the same again. And you just hope Superman can stop that amount of damage from spreading. Everyone's already like, they have dust in their lungs forever now, and they're going to be sick forever from this. But like, it's you feel the importance of him having to stop these people, as opposed to like a lot of other movies.
And on the opposite vein, the one reason why. Like, it's a question whether, like, stuff like the Dark Superman approach is good or not is, like, another debate. The question is whether this movie did it right. Mm-hmm. And, like, I agree with you, everything you said about, like, that impact of that moment. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, then they have this weird moment afterwards where as soon as Superman shows up, they're like, wow, Superman saved us. They're all happy immediately. Like, everyone's dead around him. That's the thing.
The scene after it is him slamming a satellite into, like, a dirt road that the army's driving past, and he's like... I think you can trust me. You don't have to spy on me.
Even more immediately than that, like the Superman saves the city and he meets with Lois, and they're like, they start joking like, "Oh, the first kisses."
And even more immediately than that, everything starts happening with the terraformer, and he goes and he tells like the army the plan, and then he does like that joke with Lois where he's like, "I'm gonna fly away now," and then she has to step back, and he's like, "Further than that," and like she smiles and like almost winks at him. I'm like, this. People are dying every single second that this happens.
Yeah.
And also, as soon as they move like a few blocks from where the terraforming thing is, Metropolis is fine. Like, there's no sign of anyone panicking or like any damage whatsoever. Like, they go like 5 blocks down the street, and Metropolis is fine. Like, that's where the final fight with Zod takes place. Like, people are still in the streets after all that's happening. Further down, like 9/11 basically happened, and you go down a few blocks and everything's untouched.
No, but the field was spreading over time, which is why when he lands and like kisses Lois, he's in a giant empty thing because everything was permanently crushed into the earth.
Yeah, but like, when it's showing like the next scene when they start fighting Zod, it feels like nothing, like nothing happened. Like,
but that's the thing that like that's why I was cautiously optimistic. When this ended, because I was like, okay, this is what it's like when gods fight in your city. I get that. Mm-hmm. I get that that's the theme. And if they, like, especially Lex Luthor is going to be the villain in Batman v Superman. And Luthor is the ultimate, like, we have to keep gods in check. That's, like, his whole role as a comic book villain. So when I was like, okay, Luthor is going to run an anti-Superman campaign based on the fact that he destroyed a fucking city. And that isn't what happens. Like, that's
Batman
follow-up.
gets manipulated, kind of.
Yeah, Batman becomes that in a way.
Yeah.
But, like, even that, it's still, like, that's never really the argument. It's like, we just have to fight for a little while until we team up to fight the real bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, until you say Martha.
Yeah, and I never felt like the weight of the moments we see where, like, we see, like, what is basically a 9/11 event in this city. If not worse than that. And you feel the weight in there because Zack Snyder loves his destruction porn. And it looks very impressive, and you do feel the gravitas.
And this is the prettiest DC film out of all.
Yeah, but I like the way Wonder Woman is shot better, but that's besides the point.
I really don't like that, like, blue tint throughout the whole film, but that's my
Okay,
preference.
well, what I mean is we feel the weight in special effects, but I feel like we never feel the weight plot-wise throughout the entire DC universe. Like, this doesn't give the weight that Snyder put on film. He doesn't put it into the script.
See, it's hard too because a lot of times we're judging this with the foreknowledge of where Snyder goes with the universe, and then, like, knowing that DC's trying to course correct right now and try and make it lighter and everything, that it's kind of just like it spits in the face of what this movie tries to do on top of this own movie spitting in its own face for some of the jokey jokes after, like, such weighty destructive moments.
Well, the problem is that back when this movie was new, people were excusing it, saying they're building towards something, you gotta let them do it. And as soon as, like, Batman vs Superman was announced to be the first follow-up and not Man of Steel 2 or even, like, a solo Batman film, immediately people were like, what? And when they realized that Superman wasn't really like, there wasn't really a growth period for Superman, it goes to Batman v Superman, everyone thinks he's a god and great. Like, there's no, like, period where he's transitioning to be the Superman we know and love. So, like, all the excuses that this film was a learning Superman kind of flew out the window. It's just like, this is how Superman is, but everyone, like, loves him despite the fact he is kind of shitty as a superhero.
I'm trying to think about this movie, like, on its own, by its own merits, and, like, when it came out and everything, rather than trying to look at the justifications that were, like, made for it. And I still think, like, there's a lot of parts of the movie that I do like I think its color tinting is really good. I really like that focuses.
I don't like the color
I really like
scheme.
that focuses on
blue.
blacks and yellows instead of straight up blues and oranges. Like,
Too many blues in Hollywood. Knock it off, blue in Hollywood.
yeah, you have to do it in way more, like, subtle ways with, like, you highlight something, or again, like, here it's the blue's been reduced so much it's almost like black, and the orange is lifted so much it's almost like yellow, which I really like. And the sound direction's really good. I really like the fights in it. When I was watching, I'm like, this is still, like, him fighting the other two Zod's henchmen in the town is still one of the best superhero fights I think I've seen on a film.
See, the thing, though, is if they're trying to convince us that Superman is a hero, and I know that, like, the arguments, but let's take this movie on its face, that at the end he explicitly tells the American government, "Don't worry, I'm a hero," and then the soldier who was a first responder in Metropolis says he's kind of hot. So we're supposed to take at its face that he is a hero. That fight that you're talking about, they are in an open field, and Superman drags them into a town.
He doesn't drag them into a town. He does. He's flying with Zod.
He punches him not town. He punches him into a gas station full of people and blows up the gas station.
Yeah,
so because he doesn't know his own power. He hasn't gotten into a fight with anyone.
No, but there's no indication of that. There's no indication of that in the film.
Okay,
he never stops and looks shocked at what he did. He just keeps fighting as nothing happened.
That's the thing, is I understand. That would be a powerful moment if Superman, who's never used his powers to its full extent before, punched somebody and he ended up blowing up a gas station. That would be powerful. But you know what Superman does? He keeps punching them, and then into other buildings.
He flies down there,
and see a Sears twice.
He warns them, stay inside and lock your doors.
After he brought the fight to them, and that's it felt like it was done so poorly. If after fighting multiple times, like blowing up a gas station, people are already dead. Like, at Superman's,
this was something I was thinking of, or, like, this is one of my defenses for this movie, is I hate the fact that, like, everyone focuses that, why would you fight in the crowd town? Why would you fight in Metropolis and stuff?
He brought the fight there, and if there was sufficient indication that he regretted it. There was never even discussion of
I agree that he should have regretted it. That would have been very important, but I hate this feeling where it's like superheroes are so powerful, they should be able to control, like, where the setting of their fights are and everything.
No,
No, I'm not saying that he should have been able to take him out. I'm saying that he should be trying.
Yeah, and me and Ryan talked about the fact that Ryan started saying he was fine with an alternate darker take, and I'll say right now, I would have been fine if this was an inexperienced Superman handled right. Like, if it was really, throughout the whole film, you felt like he was really regretting it, there's a lot of thought put into it, but there's more thought putting into him snapping Zod's neck, like when we talked about. That's not emphasis on his character. Like, it's emphasis on him being experienced. They should have had at least that much focus on this neck snapping as they have on him being inexperienced.
I agree.
There isn't enough.
Even if you're not going to have him be constantly trying to help them, maybe he doesn't realize because he's just not used to fighting under this much pressure. The movie shouldn't end with a joke about how he's a sexy hero. It should end with him looking at the destruction and being like, oh my god, I have to be better. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like, if you end it by him being like, you can trust me, like, that just, to me, no, you definitely can't. Like, you should be the, like, maybe not the bad guy of the movie, but you're certainly not the hero.
Yeah, again, like, I agree. Like, I really think that would be a way more interesting thematic direction for it to take.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to look at it and be like, is there something I could have done better to save more people rather than, like, doing this? I hate that trope in, like, superhero comics where everyone has, like, because I like villains being powered to the point where they do feel ominous and threatening, because kind of like in real life, you don't get to control how powerful your villains are. It's just, like, how best to deal with this threat right now. And I like Superman having to just, like, fight with Zod in the city, and, like, he's not... If he tried to get away, it'd be the kind of thing where Zod could kill him if he turned his back to Zod, which is what I respect, and I'm like that. I like that angle to it, and I also want the regret there too.
Yeah, it's one of those things in comics because they want to not have too many war crimes. Like, there are, like, a lot of the superheroes committed war crimes over time, like especially X-Men. Almost all of them should be in fucking prison, but they don't want to have too many war crimes on these characters.
Yeah.
So you have stuff like in the comics, they have it's canon that Hulk never kills anyone during any of his rampages, which is ridiculous. Like, there's no way Hulk. And when they brought that up in the 2003 Hulk film, where they specifically show out every person that Hulk was with tanks, everyone says, "I'm fine. Don't worry, guys, I'm fine." It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay. Like in the film, it's
that happens in cartoons all the time. Like the Batman animated series, Batman is always throwing guys off buildings and stuff, but they always like land in a
garbage,
dumpster and go, or things like that.
Yeah, which is like, well, I like that. Again, this is like a clean slate kind of for Snyder to do this. I like seeing the destruction that you don't see in regular superhero films, where, like Ryan was saying, where these are like two gods fighting. It's like people, just bystanders, are gonna suffer from their clashes.
Yeah,
but that's not thematically relevant.
Yeah. Again, well, like Sly said, Zod, like, it's given more consideration than the entire people of Metropolis. Like, not once is he like, oh shit, like, this is messed up, what happened. With Zod, he's like, oh no.
But that's an important distinction to make, because that's one thing that gets muddied in this argument is whether the idea of Superman, like, being inexperienced and Superman failing and, like, these gods causing some destruction should be allowed to happen, or whether this film did that right. And I think that's why Daryl always felt defensive of this movie, because people argue that Superman should be saving people left and right, and, like, no one should be dying ever because Superman's so great. And
that he's supposed to always, like, put, like, himself in the way of other people, which is, like, kind of cool, but, like, I want there to be costs to that. You can't just take a bullet for someone and be like, I'll just keep doing this, like, every single day of my life.
Yeah. And so one thing we can agree on for sure, though, is this is definitely the best interpretation of Guardian, though, right?
I was just going to bring that up. So fans of the show should know how much we love Guardian, our favorite Superman character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From our Death of Superman episodes. So, Daryl, what did you think of Chris Maloney as Guardian?
Who?
The guy from Law and Order SVU. He's the military guy that is, like, inexplicably a main character.
Who?
He's like the head army guy, and they call him Guardian like twice. For some reason.
That was Guardian?
Yes.
I thought it was just some, like, military, because I thought they were really playing up the angle about our armed service men and women being such powerful figures and stuff, that they're so heroic.
It felt like Michael Bay, like, trying to invoke that Michael Bay, like, super patriotism.
Yeah, I thought it was them, like, putting that onto this guy to be like, look, like, a good death is its own reward, kind of a thing. Yeah. But wow.
But he's Guardian.
It's the best version of Guardian ever?
Yeah, probably.
No, see, I like stupid Guardian more. It's sort of like if they made Guy Gardner a lot less, like, offensive and stuff. It'd be like, whereas, like, I really like stupid Guardian doing stupid things.
That's fair. That's fair. So I have another thing that I just want to complain about briefly.
Sure.
So I know Sly has a big problem with the Chosen One motif.
Oh, I hate it. It's fucking
So I understand though that part of Superman, like everybody knows Superman's origin, he's like the last son of Krypton. Like I get that. But I find it so obnoxious that they not only made him like the last surviving member of Krypton, but they also made him the first natural born child in like 1,000 years. And like everything about Superman is like, look at his destiny.
See, that was another frustrating thing again. Why this like movie on a rewatch, I'm a bit frustrated because I'm like, I don't understand what the natural born stuff versus the synthetic children thematically. What are you talking about there? Like, what are you trying to tell me as a like? Should I want more natural births instead of like C-sections?
I think it's always like that shit because it's a cliche in films that like everything's getting more artificial and natural stuff is always better. It's like this hippy dippy.
Which is weird because it's juxtaposed against Zod being a traditional nationalist.
Yeah.
Which is like that seems like something Zod would want is for natural births instead of like all these synthetic ones. But instead Clark's dad does it.
And he's just, I don't get it though.
One of the best things I could summarize is Ariel's takes. She'd never seen this movie before, and I was like, let's watch this fucking movie. So I put it on, and we're like 10 minutes in, and she asked 2 questions. Why is it so fucking dark? And then the second was, what are all these fucking dragons doing here?
There were dragons.
It's an alien planet.
So in Krypton... And, like, this could be interesting, where Krypton is supposed to be this high-tech sci-fi city, but it also has these, like, crazy alien life forms, like dragons and these big birds. I want to point out,
I really loved a lot of the art design of the Krypton. I think whoever was the visionary behind that did a really good job. Like, the way I describe it is that it's sexless H.R. Geiger. Like, instead of being like, obviously this is advertised. It's just, like, it's a lot of, like, dark, bony structures. There's a lot of, like the hills there are, like, stone hills that, like, hide a city below, which is really cool. And like even the gate to the Phantom Zone has tentacles with like orbs at the end that emit electricity. And just think about like a designer for when it's like, I have to draw like an interdimensional gate. What would that look like? And the fact that they kept going in a lot of directions to evoke jellyfish imagery was really neat with this movie. Which I like that the Kryptonians feel alien.
It's also
that's definitely fair.
It accomplishes what a lot of people wanted to accomplish because the biggest problem, especially after Superman Returns, which was just a remake of Superman 1. No one can convince me otherwise. Fuck that film. There was like this film that the feeling that they'll never get past. Dawn of Films, as great as they are, we do want a modern, different update, and they definitely did a different but still kind of cool version of Krypton that didn't feel all like the crystal super advanced Krypton, but it's more dark. Like
that's actually really interesting because we're not going to get into this whole big thing sideways. But we were talking about the Spider-Man films recently, not on air, but like as friends, as we are wont to do.
Pay $60 a month and we'll let you have access to the chat.
And Sly was saying how he much prefers the Raimi films to the other ones, and your reasoning was so interesting because you said like and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said like when you already have something that's so close to a definitive take, anything else feels like tweaks just to make it different.
Like an alternate universe take, basically.
Yeah, like an alternate universe take. And I found that so interesting because I'm a huge Superman 1 and 2 fan. And like I love those movies so much. And I still think Superman 2 is like a perfect superhero movie. And they're so definitive Superman and Lois Lane takes for me that like so much other Superman feels like they're trying either too hard to be that or too hard not to be that. And like when you said it about Spider-Man, I was like, I don't know about that, but seeing it this way, I totally get what you're talking about now.
Yeah, and that's why like I wasn't against this. Like a lot of people probably were against this film just from the start, but I was down for something different because like we had Superman Returns, which was a shitty Donner version. Like I have the Donner films. I can watch them if I want to. Like I want something different. And this was at the very least this was something completely different.
Yeah, it's something you can like pick apart and analyze.
We do also get to see Pete Ross call Clark Kent a dick splash. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was okay. There's a couple things in this movie which Snyder does. He goes like a little overboard with stuff like that. Like I don't think we need to see like 2 separate scenes of Clark getting bullied. Actually, it's 3 because of that guy in the bar that like throws a beer can at his head and goes, "Steve Reich." I'm like, you went overboard here. Like you can do this without being like a joke.
There's nothing subtle in this movie.
Yeah. Even the religious imagery.
Oh, the religious. Yeah.
Just like every Nolan Goyer film, right?
Yeah. Pretty
That's a different argument for a different day.
Yeah, not to so people don't. I don't hate Nolan and Goyer, Nolan and Goyer, but they are beat you over the head with their themes a lot.
So we originally thought that this was going to be Daryl trying to convince me that this movie's good. Sorry, that's not what it was.
And I was supposed to be moderating, but I just became a part of the conversation. So.
I thought it would be like more of a back and forth, but it's really kind of just a review about how this movie's not that great.
I actually like this movie as like my second favorite DCEU one. Like I really like it a lot more than Justice League and a bit more than Batman v Superman.
It's a better film than Justice League, and
I would say I like Justice League a lot more, but I would say Man of Steel is a better film.
And also, Justice League is fucking ugly as shit, and this movie looks beautiful. So that's one difficult point.
I still don't think this movie looks beautiful. The special effects look like really good, but like just the colors are so washed out that it
they are. But like that's the thing. Like you're still looking at it as a DC film. Well, I'm looking at it as like just aesthetically, like for what it's doing, like almost like kind of like when Tim Burton was supposed to be helmed to direct that Superman Lives, like it's almost close to that point, especially like when Superman's in the skulls being buried by the skulls, like it feels like a super gothic take on
But
Superman.
I guess for me, that's the thing that I hate the most about the movie is how inconsistent that is. Like the color scheme is always dark, but then there's like goofs and stuff, and it's like
and also even the approach, like it has like a shaky cam at times. It's trying to go for a really shaky cam at times. It's going for very cinematic sci-fi approach or something. Like it's very inconsistent even with that approach. But like Snyder, like even when it's inconsistent, I always just like looking at films. Like I can just look at his films quietly. The volume. It's just kind of like Mark Millar books. Like I could just look at the pages and not read the fucking dumb text. I could just look at
there were a lot of shots that I really liked that he did throughout the film where I was like, you know what, I like no matter what you say about the writing in his films or thematically like the inconsistent or the destruction points, like everything's shot really well. And most of the audio works with it too. And also, another defense for this movie, I know this is going long, but I also really like the villains in it too, compared to I think every other DCEU villain, I would say.
Oh yeah, what's her face? Fiora?
She was really awesome.
You know what's really interesting? Gal Gadot was supposed to play her, but she couldn't because she was pregnant, so they cast her as Wonder Woman instead.
I
bet she's happier.
It's funny because I keep forgetting her name.
Fiora?
The woman. Yeah, she is basically what Steppenwolf was trying to be.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like Steppenwolf, like people make excuses for Steppenwolf saying, "Oh, he's supposed to be like a filler, like a setup villain." Well, you could do that villain to just being a dick and like just destroying stuff. They already did it right with Man of Steel. Like that's basically what she was.
That's the thing is I mean I could probably talk about her for a while, but it's both in her actions, her movement, and the way she speaks to people is really great, and it's like it's not theatric, but it's really like captivating in its own way, like where she does like head cocks and the way in which she speaks to Superman and to like other people, that how she even tells again Guardian of all people is in this movie. She says that good death is its own roar. It's like it adds so much to the character when she only says like 10 lines for the whole movie.
She's a good actress like that. Like,
okay, that's one thing I want to mention, even though I have to just give a shout out for my girl Dr. Poison, who I love so much, but I think that the villains in this movie are really good, and I think all the casting and the acting is pretty top notch.
Yeah,
like even though like this is not my favorite Superman take at all, I think Cavill is a great pick.
Yeah, he could play Superman.
Yeah, and especially with Justice League, I can now see him as actually Superman. Like, like, he actually acts like Superman that one. Versus just generic stoic guy like Daryl said in this one.
Yeah.
And like I thought like the dichotomy between Kevin Costner as Pa Kent and Russell Crowe's Jor-El like was, I think like they both played the father figures in very different and interesting ways. Like even though I don't like the directions, like I think a lot of the acting is pretty great. And Michael Shannon is terrifying as well.
Oh, Michael Shannon's fucking amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they made someone that's such an asshole kind of sympathetic, and when he's telling him, it's like, I was literally born to defend Krypton, like this is my life's goal, and you're destroying it.
The thing about him and like the other villains, you can believe that they believe what they're doing, like what they're doing is right.
Yeah.
They're assholes. They believe in horrible things, but they're so convincing.
And it shows you like his passion and his loss, and that's something you never see from Steppenwolf is like grief over the fact that you might be losing or you're losing.
Yeah, when Steppenwolf loses at the end, like it's almost like comical, like it's playful laughs.
Yeah.
When Steppenwolf finally gets outclassed by Superman.
Yeah. And one thing, like, I really like Amy Adams as Lois Lane too, because I found her still strong and independent, but not in the same way that Margot Kidder's Lois Lane is. And, like, I love Margot Kidder a lot as Lois Lane. She's, like, my definitive Lois Lane. But, like, I felt like this wasn't retreading that. And
no one was retreading any of the characters.
And that's I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah, especially that she knew Superman before she knew Clark, kind of a thing. Like, I like
she
I
knew
like
Superman
that twist.
before Clark, and she's not, like, quirky and funny. She's, like, really serious, gotta do my job, like, really. She's much more of, like, a hard-hitting journalist. And, like, I think that, like, all the actors in this movie do a really good job. And it's one of those things that, like, that's why I get mad at it. Because, like, I could take almost the same movie and just make it 1,000,000 times better with just a couple tweaks.
Just get a better script. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the best joke in the whole film. Like, the only joke that really worked for me. The one where Superman shows up as Clark Kent saying, "I'm Clark Kent," and she's just like, "Yeah, I'm sure you are." Like
No, she says,
that's
"Welcome
actually...
to the planet," and it's like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
You get it? Because he's an alien?
No, but it's like such a
No, wait,
like,
no,
cute
explain
little
to me. I'm sorry. What was it?
He's an alien, and now he's
No,
being
but the
officially
place is
welcomed
called
to
the
Earth.
Daily Planet.
Oh,
That's why
I
she
didn't
said,
get
yeah,
that.
that's why she
Okay.
says "Welcome to the Planet," because it's that, yeah.
Also, why cast Lawrence Fishburne and have him do fucking nothing?
Yeah.
No, don't
get me
he
started
holds
on
that
the
girl's
fucking.
hand while the building's on her.
That's Jenny Olsen,
Yeah.
according
Okay.
to the credits.
I don't know what the fuck Zack Snyder has against Jimmy Olsen. Like, for some reason, in this one, he has Jenny Olsen instead of Jimmy. Then he has Jimmy Olsen in Batman v Superman and gets his head blown off in the first 5 minutes. I don't know why he hates him so
because
much.
he
Like,
hates
what the fuck?
Superman. And by extension,
yeah.
you're going to hate his biggest fanboy.
Yeah, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen.
Okay.
Are we done with this shit finally?
So, Daryl, rate this movie on a scale from 1 to 10.
An S symbol that stands for hope.
Fuck. So is that like a 5? It looks like a 5.
That's, I don't know. I don't like ratings.
I'm just planning it's a 5. Daryl.
Okay. I think Sly's convinced me, though, that Batman v Superman is more enjoyable.
No. No.
It's at least at least it does what it's trying to do. It's trying to make you fucking depressed.
I have also only seen it once, though, so take that.
Yeah, leave messages if you
dinosaur.
want us to watch Batman v Superman and then argue about it.
I also love Junkie XL's score. Like, the fact I will take Batman v Superman to just have Junkie XL's score come into existence. Like I'll do anything just for that.
Okay. So anyway, thank you, as always, for being a backer for us. And, yeah, let us know what you want to hear. What other episodes? It's not like Phil's not going to be here. We just thought this was going to be more of a debate between Daryl and I.
Yeah, and then it should not just be us shitting on.
Also, Phil, when it comes to bad movies, like, he will just quit rather than watch a bad movie for some reason.
Yeah, I thought we were going to lose him after Suicide Squad.
I thought we were going to commit suicide after Suicide Squad.
Oh, wait, that's
Okay.
my favorite DC film. That's right.
Oh god.
Oh,
Is that better Batman v Superman to you?
I mean, not as a film, but, like, I enjoy it the most. It's so good.
Okay. Oh god.
Okay, I've had enough of
Shout
you
out to
people.
John Maria if you're a backer.
If you are. If not, fuck you. So,
Yeah.
and you can't hear it because
Yeah, because you're not a backer.
Somebody tell John to fuck off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you guys for everything.
I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Daryl.
Stay in continuity.
Okay.
And stay a Patreon subscriber.
Please,
Bye.
please.